Well, look at that beautiful system sitting on my desk. Of course, I'm talking about the Wii U. Look, I've been having fun messing around with the Wii U. Check out my video from yesterday if you haven't already. It's a really good time of what you could do with just an SD card and a stock Wii U. But we're not here to talk about the Wii U today. We're not even here to talk about the Wii or the Switch 2. I guess in theory this does involve the Switch, but no, we're going to go back to the GameCube days because the GameCube is a system that, maybe it wasn't as popular as it should have been during its heyday, but in retrospect, it is a system that a lot of people love. The library has definitely held up very well, and some of those games look absolutely gorgeous with progressive scan utilizing some higher resolutions than what most people had on their TVs at that time frame. Now, the GameCube controller is something very interesting, and it seems like it's something that, well, a lot of Nintendo fans just absolutely love. And for some reason, in 2024, the GameCube controller seems to be making a return. And where there's smoke, I tend to believe that there's fire with this, and you probably see where I'm going with this, but let's just check out the information and come to some conclusions. So this is over on Reset Era. If you want to go through this entire thread, I'll have a link to it in the description box down below. Reading through some of this stuff might not make a lot of sense. There's a lot of technical jargon as far as part numbers are concerned. Prior theorizing with Luigi blood, which I believe we actually talked about that on the channel when that was discovered. But it does indeed look like that, according to a shipping manifest, that part numbers are being done that coincide with the GameCube controller, and the GameCube controller is returning in 2024 or maybe 2025. So you can see here there's like a laundry list of different parts, different comparisons to what the parts are, blah, blah, blah. Stuff that a lot of people probably, myself included, don't understand. But basically, these types of circuit boards and some of these parts that are being used actually coincide with prior GameCube related controllers. You can see here that with the motor of the thing, I did find this pretty interesting. TRW1230 is the same motor that's currently used in GameCube controllers. It's also used in N64 NSO controllers, but those are A, not likely to be moved to Vietnam, which is where these are coming from, and B, already have a part number of CFS8480, and C, don't contain RLDOL PCBs. So basically what this is saying is that the motor used for vibration function that is on this parts list is for a GameCube controller, and while it is very similar to the N64 one, which of course is for Nintendo Switch Online, it's not the same item number because it's coming from a different factory with a different SKU attached to it, because the N64 one already has a SKU. You can see here that there's trigger covers on here, which are, very, very similar to GameCube stuff. And you can see here, if HGU0480 isn't a wireless GameCube controller for NSO, it is some other similar wireless controller. It can't be a Switch 2 controller due to the motor, among other things. So that leaves us with what? A Virtual Boy NSO controller? But I think the evidence strongly points towards a GameCube controller. So this obviously has a lot of people talking about things, and I kind of got to thinking, there has been rumors about Nintendo doing GameCube on the NSO, but they also like to remake and remaster games that were originally on the GameCube, and you're seeing it more and more often. You saw it with Metroid Prime Remastered, Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door, so this is becoming something that is a bit more prevalent. So I want to theorize a couple different things of what this could actually mean, and maybe you guys can let me know what you guys think it means. I'm not saying that I'm leaning towards one of these things over another thing, but just some things I want to throw out. So let's say the GameCube stuff does continue to happen, and they continue to support GameCube games being brought over to modern eras with modern graphics on things like the Nintendo Switch. It would make sense for them to want to market a GameCube style controller because you could get that sort of feeling. And if they plan on doing more GameCube games in the future, we already have rumors about games such as, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, even though I've given up on those. Those were GameCube games. Metroid Prime 2. There's a vast library of games that they can, do remasters of and bring them to a modern platform. And what better way to enjoy those games for the nostalgic purpose than, of course, to use a GameCube controller at a re-release of it. Like, that does make sense to me. I feel like out of all of these things, that might make the most sense, but this is Nintendo, and what makes the most sense isn't always what it ends up being. Now you could always say, well, it's for Nintendo Switch Online, and I mean, that is something that is worth talking about. I've talked about it before on this channel. Nintendo does need to increase the value of Nintendo Switch Online going into the next generation. And when you look at the current consoles that are available on Switch Online, especially the expansion pack stuff, I mean, right now we're at N64. The next logical step would be to be GameCube. But the remakes and remasters of GameCube's games kind of make me a little bit hesitant on it, because it's not just Nintendo that's taking games from that generation. Third-party companies are also doing the same. Remember Tales of Symphonia, anyone? That ran worse than the GameCube version did. I mean, it's still a fun game, but yeah, it didn't run as well as it should. So if they were to add, virtual console support to Nintendo Switch Online for GameCube, then yes, you would also want to have a controller for this, because it does kind of make sense. They did one for the NES, the SNES, the Genesis, the N64. But when I look at Nintendo Switch Online, like, are we tapped out on Sega Genesis games? Are we tapped out on N64 games? Like, I still feel like there's several key titles that are missing from there, and I feel like that should be fleshed out a little bit more as far as, giving that added value. But once again, we're talking about a GameCube controller with this, so something GameCube related has to be happening. Now, is it Switch Online related? Is it to sort of have nostalgia? I mean, even there is the off chance that it could just be for people playing Smash Brothers. Like, the Smash Brothers people love the GameCube controller, and that's one of their preferred ways to play. So I guess maybe you bundle it with a copy of Smash with all of the DLC attached to it or something. Like, that's something you could potentially see at the end of a system's life cycle. But there's one thing that I can't help but feel could potentially have something to do with this. And that, my friends, is the Nintendo Switch Online playtest that is coming up. What if this playtest is indeed for GameCube stuff? I've given up on it being something streaming related because of the file size of this playtest. The file size is 2.2 gigabytes. There's no reason for a streaming client to take up that much space. So what would take up that much space? Well, a game of some sorts. But a game, you would just do an open beta test for that, like you've done with other games that are first-party games, such as Splatoon, if you're trying to check out the online connectivity of these things. So then what's really left here? Is it a third-party game client? Because if it was a third-party game, well, that file size would be 10 times the amount easily, because if you look at a beta test for third-party games, those are so much larger. And of course, they could just do a beta test. So it has to be something involving Nintendo with this. Now, the average disk size of a GameCube game is 1.4 gigabytes. Now, that is less than what a GameCube or what this file size is. But what if it's multiple games? What if there's online components to it? What if there's a front end attached to it? Because you would have to imagine that it's not going to be streaming, right? Or is it going to be streaming? And if it is a streaming GameCube thing, that kind of takes me back to square one, because you wouldn't need a large client for that unless you need a large client so that the game can pretty much install itself via your emulation of GameCube, and then when you turn off your Nintendo Switch system, then it kind of deletes that file, but it keeps a save file in there. That's just kind of the standard space that you need for when you play GameCube games. You see what I'm getting at here? Kind of like the retainer of the file space, so that when you boot up GameCube Nintendo Switch Online, and it is that sort of thing, it's downloading the game onto your system just like it does the way you play it now. Now, of course, you would have longer download times because, an N64 game, 30, 40 megabytes compared to several gigs. But this does seem like something that could potentially be what it is, and maybe we learn about it. We still have a little bit of time between then and now when this playtest does indeed take place. I did not get accepted into it, but of the 10,000 people that did, someone is going to tell us within a few minutes of this going live what this actually is. And could this GameCube controller be tied to it? I mean, maybe. I don't know that there is a definitive answer, and I don't think anyone really knows if there's a definitive answer. Well, besides Nintendo and your uncle that works there as well. So let me know what you think about this in the comments section down below. Why would Nintendo be manufacturing GameCube controllers in 2024? I don't know, man. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to check out yesterday's video if you missed it. I'm hyping it up like it did terrible in views. I don't know, it might have, but I had fun making the video, so I don't really care. I can't look at video views and stuff like that. It drives me nuts when I do, because you get all worried and you're like, oh, maybe I need to change the title. Maybe I need to change the thumbnail, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, nah, homie, let it ride. Let it ride, partner. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new. Like, comment, and share the video around. Turn on the bell notification, blah, blah, blah. Buy the Art of N64 Wrestling Games book. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.